chords we're going to use in this song are going to be E minor, D, G, C, A minor, A, and B minor. And the one thing to remember with the B minor is if you can't play the bar very well, then you can just take off the bar, mute this first string, and then play the 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd strings. That's the easier way to do it if the bar is too tough for you. Start with my beginner course if you're not quick with these chord changes yet. Alright, so we're going to start with the part played in the intro and the verse, and this part's kind of broken down into 2 distinct sections, so I'll walk you through the first section first. That's the part that sounds like this. Pretty simple, we're just switching from an E minor to a D to a G, but there's 2 things I want to note for this. The first thing to note is that whenever I'm switching from a D to a G, I actually use an alternate form of the G chord. It's the same chord, just slightly different fingering that actually makes the transition from the D to the G a lot easier. So instead of using your standard G chord fingering, I start with the D, and then I keep this 3rd finger on, rotate these 2 fingers to the new spot, and then add this pinky on the 3rd for the 1st string. So that just makes the transition from the D to the G easier because you don't have to move your fingers, your 3rd finger there, and change everything. And the same thing works in the reverse. If you start here on your G and then use those fingers to switch to the D, it makes it a lot easier than it would be if you had to switch these other ones. So that's just a quick tip I use to make that transition easier. The second thing to note in this part is that you've got the mute after the D chord. So you're playing mute, G. So all you're doing for that mute is putting the side of your palm, rest on your strings, doesn't really matter where, it'll stop the strings. So then the second part of the verse sounds like this. Again, it's pretty simple, the timing's below. The first run through you're playing on a C chord, and then the second run through you're starting on a G and switching to a D. But overall it's not too tough. The timing is pretty simple, it's mostly downstrokes, just 1 upstroke at the end of the progression, and overall that's going to be like this. 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and a. So you just got that 1 upstroke at the end. So just follow along with me in the full playthrough. So then we're going to change things up, moving into the chorus. We're going to make it simpler. We're going to use the same strumming pattern on a bunch of different chords. So starting on an A minor chord, our strumming pattern is going to sound like this. So again, we've got mostly down strums here. We're starting with 4 down strums, and then we've got a down, up, and then another down, down, up. So for most of the chorus, we're just playing 1 run through of the strumming pattern on each chord before switching, except the 3rd time where we're starting on a G and then switching partway through to a D. And slowed down, that's going to sound like this. But otherwise, we're just going through 1 run through of the strumming pattern on each chord before switching. Let's try out the whole thing together. So then the final part we need to play this whole song is the bridge. And the bridge is the easiest part we've done so far. All we're doing is straight half beats, all downstrokes. And we're switching from E minor to B minor. And remember, you can play this B minor without that first string if the bar is too hard for you. Then to D, then to A. And we're just doing 1 bar on each chord before switching. The only thing to note here is that on beat 1 and the end of beat 2, I'm going to accent those beats. So that just means play it slightly harder than the other ones, just to give it kind of an emphasis and more of a musical feel to it. So on the E minor, that sounds like this. So I did it maybe a little bit louder than you want to do it when you're playing, just to give you a better idea of it. But on the beat 1 and the end of beat 2 is accented. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all you're doing is switching from the E minor to the B to the D to the A. Let's try out the whole thing. And if you can play those 3 parts, you can play the entire song. There's a few cool techniques in this song that add that extra dimension of musicality to your playing, and it's by adding little things like this that we can make our playing a lot more interesting. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next 5-minute guitar lesson.